welcome to the channel. In today's video, I am in Arizona, and every single one of these vans has a portable power station, whether it's Bluetti, EcoFlow, Jackery, Ace Volt. Every single van out here has a backup or a main power source that they're using. I have had a lot of questions asked, and in today's video, I'm going to answer those questions, give you guys some tips and tricks on getting the most use out of your power bank. All right, guys, so by far the number one question that I get asked is, how much power do I need? What size of power bank should I buy? And with every single person out here, we all have a different need. And what I always suggest is for you to pull out those items that you would like to take with you on the road. If you're retired and going full-time in the van or RV, look at those appliances, see how many watts they pull, add those all up together, and I would add about 25% to that, and that's a ballpark estimate of how much power you'll need in a 24-hour period. Now, when you buy a power bank, and like my power banks are 2,048 watt hours of power, you're not going to get 100% out of your battery. So on average, these power banks, they can be anywhere from like 70% to 86% on average efficient. Most of them in the mid 80s. So I would multiply your 2,048 by 85%. You're going to get a number somewhere around 1,800. That's how many actual watt hours of power that you're going to get out of that system. Now, that is if your power bank is not in a 20-degree setting. If your power bank gets cold or gets too hot, they're less efficient. The other thing when you're talking about buying a power bank that I suggest is if you're the type of person that you want it ultra light, so you're going to get two small ones. You're going to run your refrigerator off of one, and you're going to run your CPAP machine after one at night. You need to take into account that every one of these batteries could have a fault, and you're going to end up without a working power bank for a little while till you figure it out. So if you rely on two small power banks for all your power needs, then you could find yourself either A, with a refrigerator with a bunch of bad food in it, or a sleepless night because you don't have enough power to run your CPAP machine. So what I always suggest is to try to get a power bank that will cover all your needs. And then maybe a smaller one that would last 3 or 4 hours until you figure out what's going on with your current power bank. Now, it sounds like these power banks have issues all the time, which they don't, but some will. And they'll have to have a reset, or the app will need app on your phone will need updated. They can fault for over voltage current. They can get too hot. They can get too cold. And you can go from 36% power to 0 power in a minute, depending on the temperature. So there's always possibilities with anything that you could need a backup system. So if it's too big to lift, whether you've got a grandson, a child, a neighbor, see if someone can help you and get a power bank that will handle all your needs, and then a smaller one for backup. All right, guys, the number 2 question that I get most often is, how do I power all my AC and DC appliances using these power banks? When you get these power banks and you download the manuals, and there's nothing that shows you how to get power from here to your light switches and your outlets, and that's next. All right, guys, so you have got your power bank, and whether it's Bluetti or EcoFlow or Jackery, whatever kind you've got, it has got a DC output and it's got an AC output. Now, this particular unit has a 12-volt, 10-amp cigarette lighter output, but it also has a 12-volt, 30 amp outlet. This is an aviator plug. That's a cigarette lighter plug. The aviator plug screws in, so it's a solid connection. Sometimes you'll see an Anderson connector or an XT60 connector, and it's going to be the same concept. So I get these cords off of Amazon, and it's got the XT60 on the end of it, and then I take that to my 12-volt fuse block over here. Now, I used to put an inline fuse in there, but the 12-volt panel, these are fused, and these power banks are completely safe. It's going to fault if there's an overcurrent. So the aviator plug to the fuse block. You can see I've got all my DC wires coming in to the fuse block that's going to power all my components inside the van. Because it's got an XT60 connection here, if I ever have a problem where this powers down, all I've got to do is plug a cigarette lighter plug into this, and I can now use whatever backup battery that I have to power my van while I'm figuring this system out. Now, for my AC current, I just have one cord here that goes to a surge protector. The surge protector has all the wires that individually go to each outlet. So every single outlet is on its own individual run, comes to a surge protector, so you've got that backup. Then it goes to your bluetti power bank. On this particular battery, you're going to see this cord. That is her air conditioner cord for when she's on shore power. We just leave that in so she doesn't have to worry about it. All right, let's pull out this AC300. I'm going to show you guys something on these batteries. I've had a couple people out here say, can you take a look at my solar? I'm not pulling what my neighbors are pulling. And so let's take a look at the settings here. If you're getting like just say 60 watts of solar and your neighbor's getting 180 and you got the same system, I want you to go to your battery, click on settings, and it's going to show you a list of AC input, DC input, and down here it's going to say type of input. It's going to say PV or other, and you need to make sure that if you're charging with your solar panels that this is on PV. If it's not on PV, you're not going to get, that could be your problem. And we have found that several times out here. And this AC300, it let me switch it right over. On the AC200 Max, I did have to disconnect the solar to get both of those to switch over. But go to your settings here, make sure that you're on the PV for solar panels, and that should fix your problem. All right, guys, now let's talk about charging while you drive. All of these power banks come with a way to charge your battery from a cigarette lighter while you drive. And if you've got one of the smaller power banks that only pull 60, 70, 80 watts an hour while it's plugged into the cigarette lighter adapter, you're not going to have any problems charging while you drive. But a lot of these power banks are pulling 5, 6, 11, 1800 watts supercharged. If you put your cigarette lighter plug into your automobile and you try to charge with your cigarette lighter adapter while you're driving, you're going to blow your fuse. Hands down, every time you try it, it's going to blow. It's too much power. You're going to get about 100 watts, maybe 111 out of your cigarette lighter adapter. Then you're going to blow your fuse. So what can you do as an alternative? Bluetti specifically came out with a DC to DC charger on their own. It's called the Charger 1. It hooks up to your starter battery. It's got a breaker on it. It's got a box on it XT or MC4 connectors come out of it. You hook it straight into the MC4 connectors on your DC input on the battery. So you've got a cable that goes in your battery. It's got MC4 connectors on it. You connect this device to your starter battery. The MC4 connectors connect and you charge while you drive. The good thing about that system is in the app, you pick which battery you're charging and whether or not your battery can handle 1400 or 200, you can set it at the proper voltage watt input according to your battery. So I've got the Elite hooked up to mine. It can charge up to 1400. The Charger 1 maxes out at 575. I've seen 580 on it, but on average 575. So I can charge at 575 while I'm driving. Now, because that maxes out at 56 volts, I can also charge from my solar panels at the same time. You have to be able to stay underneath your battery's maximum voltage input to not create a fault. So if I had 100 volts of solar hooked up to my van and 56 volts off my battery, it would trip, it would make my battery fault. But because it's 56 and let's just say 70, that's 130, that's perfect. So most of the batteries, these bigger ones, you got to stay under 150 volts. So what if you don't have a bluetti and you still would like to do a DC to DC charger? You can do a DC to DC charger on your starter battery. It's replenishing through your alternator. You run it back to your van, to your battery. Say you've got the EcoFlow. That output also has MC4 connectors. So you can make an MC4 connector cable that will go to the Victron or whatever DC to DC charger you have. The DC input on your battery just has to be compatible with the DC output on your DC charger. So the output and the input has to be compatible. MC4 connectors, Anderson, XT90, whatever the case may be, and you can charge while you drive. The other thing that you can do is you can charge AC current while you're driving. You just have to hook an inverter up to your starter battery. So for those of you guys that have been following my channel a long time, you know that almost every van build I have out there, I do that for the client. And this is why I do it. Because a lot of DC inputs will max out. But while you're driving, you can pull 5, 6, 7, 1100 watts of AC current through an inverter to your battery, and also 300-400 watts from your solar. So ultimately, you're going to be charging at about 1500 watts an hour. So if you're only driving 2 hours, that's phenomenal. Say you're driving 8 hours and you don't want to take 1100 watts off your battery. A lot of these power banks have like a silent mode, or they actually have it in the settings where you can dial down the amperage that you're pulling in. So say you have a bluetti, you can change your input amperage 2, 3, 7, 8, 11, all the way up to 20 amps of input. So if you're going to be driving all day and you don't want to pull 1100 watts off your battery all at once, dial it down to 5 amps and you're going to pull about 400 or 500 watts off of your starter battery to your power bank. You're going to be full by the time you get there. You'll have multiple power banks full. Charge your computer while you drive, cook a meal while you drive. So inverter on the battery, I will link a video above and in the description on how to do that. I've got a full video on that. Now, with that being said, When you put an inverter on your battery, I have found that I was using the pure sine wave inverters. It didn't make any difference for the charging, but a lot of these power banks, as they get more sophisticated, they really want that steady current. So I have stopped using pure sine wave, modified sine inverters, and started installing pure sine wave inverters. So pure sine wave inverter onto your starter battery. It charges off the alternator while you're driving, and you have full battery systems along with the solar at the same time, a full battery by the time you get to where you're going. If you have a question and I did not answer it, or if I confused you, please leave a comment below. You can reach out to me at midwestvanbuilders@gmail.com. That email is also in the description below. Subscribe and follow along for the video coming on the Charger 1 and a review of the Elite battery. Thanks for following along. We'll see you on the next video.